Cool. And we are live. What's going on, Joe? What's up? How are you?
Another day in Buffalo, New York. No, I just got back from Montreal yesterday, so I was at C2. So doing good. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I it was spent some time in Dallas for a little bit and visited some family and spent some time with my family during Mother's Day. And then I also dog sat for the first time for a whole week. My sister's dog. That was really fun. He's a character, but that was a good time for me. And just being back, back in Texas is always a good thing.
I can agree with that.
Well,
And
yeah, you do the tee up. I've known her for far too long, so
we got an evolution of engagement first. That means that this is a first time thing that is happening on the show. And we have a good friend, Kim, who is one of Joe's close connects, but also someone he has mentored over the time. And we felt like, you know what, let's bring Kim on and let her come to the show and really just connect with our audience overall. Again, you're tuning into the evolution of engagement, episode 7, where we're going to talk about experiential. We're going to talk about C2. We're going to hear from Kim. We're also going to give some tips and tricks to get ready for Cannes Lions this year. That's next month, as well as talk about, of course, some brand partnerships, as well as experiential news. But before we get started, definitely want to hear from Kim. Kim, let's tell a short story about yourself, who you are, kind of where you are right now in your career, and just something that lets people know what you have going on.
100%. Well, it was just a great segue because I am based in Austin, Texas. If you guys aren't familiar with Austin, so just love to see that you got to come around to Dallas and maybe stop by Austin next time for sure. And love that you're playing around with the dog life. Maybe we'll see if you become a dog parent soon. But I currently also have a dog, so a little bit more about me. But really just to give a little bit snippet of just who I am as a person, first and foremost, I am a child of immigrant parents. They immigrated here to the U.S. from Vietnam when they were 17. So I definitely grew up, working into my small business of my parents. That was a nail shop. And I really like to attribute a lot to my journey of experiential starting from that point. And so I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. So a fellow friend of Joe's from that hometown as well. And also a big Bills fan also. So can't always have to give a shout out to them.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Cowboys fan over here. I don't know.
Oh no. Okay. Well, maybe I should. No, just kidding. I'll stay. Don't worry. Yeah, Bills and Cowboys go way back until we lost you guys in that one of the 4 years we lost the Super Bowls in a row. So I'll just say we're okay now. But yeah. So yeah, from Buffalo, and really I got to jump into experiential from the beginning of my career, and now I'm currently at Expedia Group as a global events and experience manager. I lead events and experience specifically for internal audiences. So a lot to uncover there, and something that I feel really passionately about as well. So I'm sure we'll dive more into this as the show goes on. But yeah, just a little bit about me.
I love that. And I mean, outside of the Bills choice here, I'll let it slide for this call, but or this conversation. But one thing about the evolution of engagement, we really when we think about the audience that we're talking about all touch points of experiential, from your brand ambassadors to your vendors, your builders, your designers, your 3D designers, your creatives, even those on the strategy and account team. And so we really try to focus that conversation around that. And I know Joe has some love for that too. He's based on the business development. I'm on the account, and also have that production background. So again, just as our audience comes in, welcome to our episode 7. We have a special guest today. And we really are going to highlight those things around experiential. And Kim, we want to just kind of kick it off with you and kind of just understanding the Experiential Collective. That is your baby. That is something that I've heard about through Joe, and I'm not sure if Joe has a little bit more about it, how it's helped him in general, but we'd love to hear about that, and then just hear how you got started there.
Yes, I love to talk about this collective. And honestly, I I find love and joy in being able to start it. But I have to say, like, this community that we were able to build wouldn't be what it is today without the members themselves, Joe being one of them. And so really, really big shout out to everyone who's a part of it and just making this intimate and safe space for people in our industry. So just a little bit about how I started the collective was I actually was a part of a mentorship program. And I'll give a shout out to Musa Tarek if people are familiar with him, but he has his own mentorship program. And one of the things that he really pushed the members of this group to hone in on, and it might not be nothing new for everyone here, but it's mostly about just being able to connect with people peer to peer in industry, and not just about connecting people above you, that, does provide you a lot of learnings and mentorship, but really truly learning from your peers. And as I looked around, looking into the experiential space, I was like, is there a space I can truly go to and just tap on someone's shoulder and say, hey, like, how do you guys feel about this experience? How do you feel about this idea? And really just be able to connect with someone over this industry. And I just didn't want to join another LinkedIn group. Sometimes those can be just a lot of posts and spam, not really one-to-one connection and chats. And so really that inspired me to start this Experiential Collective, which is a community for experiential marketers by experiential marketers. And really our goal is to empower the force behind experiential for the future and really be the prestige and premier people within this industry. And so all to say, I literally give a shout out to everyone who has made this space what it is. But basically we connect monthly, whether that be meetups, workshops, speakers, etc. And then we also have a platform where it's a very intimate space where we can chat with each other. We have dedicated channels to experiential trends, to activations, to just any questions or help that we need to tap on, whether that be vendor questions, agency questions, ideas, and just be able to brainstorm with each other. And so I am just so excited and thrilled about the interest around this community because it seemed like a lot of individuals as well didn't have this safe space that they can go to. And so I found that it was something that has been inspiring to me, empowering for me. And I think as we move in this, very fast-paced digital world that we're in right now, I think it's more important than ever to elevate and push the boundaries of what experiential is. And the only way we can do that is if we can join together as a community and industry, right? And so there's just a big need for communities in this space. So that is really just a overview of what it is and what I know it's hope to be in the future.
You've done an amazing job, Kim. Seriously, I love that there's a place to go. There is a ton of different associations. There are a ton of communities, even around our particular niche industry of experiential, even though I don't know if we can even say it's niche anymore. But at the same time, you've built something that allows people to come in and it doesn't feel like there's any type of sales component, and it doesn't feel like there's any type of aspect of, do I have to be on there? You go on there when you want to share the trends or activations, or if you want to reach out to a person. But it isn't like this place that you have to live on at all times too. So you've created something really wonderful. And obviously I'm always happy to have seen the enthusiasm of Experiential through you. It dates back to 2019 when you reached out and you were like, what is this? What is this industry, and how you'll get into it further, and to see it grow and see how much you've impacted it, both professionally at Expedia and throughout, and then even personally with this Experiential Collective. So you're doing a wonderful job.
I love it. Also, the audience, as you join and you tune in, please drop a question for Kim. She's going to answer. We'll pull them up and she'll answer those throughout the.
I have a first question right away, Marcus.
Love it.
I could go into C2, but I'm not going to do that right at the moment. I want to hear Kim on an event that I think is fascinating, and it's one that I know you just attended, and it's called WPP Stream. Now, I don't know how much you're able to give away, but I'd be very I know me and Marcus would be very
I want to hear.
open. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. I am so excited you guys asked that because we 100% were allowed to share what happened at that event without, dropping any names specifically. But so I would definitely keep it vague on that point. But all to say though, like even connecting it back to what you just mentioned, Joe, how this experiential collective is such a space where people don't necessarily have to, I guess, put in so much, I guess, into a platform that is like, you have to be requirements, etc. WPP Stream was really very similar in that way. And it really provided a space for individuals like executives and people within an industry to connect together without having any, I guess, having it be a safe space, an intimate space, right? And so Stream was amazing just that way. I will first describe it as organized chaos at its finest. It truly is what we understand is an unconference. So flipping your head on what a conference should be. It's everything it isn't. So basically, I'll just give a quick overview about the event experience is WPP Stream. They were able to create an amazing itinerary by giving the power back to the attendees and its people. So when we arrived, and just for context, everyone, WPP Stream is an annual event that is hosted in many parts of the world, but it does happen in USA in Santa Barbara last week. And it's hosted, it's an invite-only event, but you get to go to a location and basically connect with other individuals, not just from marketing space, but technology, different industries within the business, like even neuroscientists were there. So really, really interesting, diverse group that comes together for this kind of event. And so when you arrive at this location, there's no set itinerary. There is set stages and set talks that happen throughout the day, but they basically put up an erase board. You get to come and propose a discussion that you feel strongly about that you like to lead for the rest of the community or group. And there's about, I would say, 200 to 300 attendees to this kind of event. And so really, I got to learn about discussions that I never even thought was even, possible. Some things like the top 10 brain technology predictions for within the next, future. And so it was really interesting because a neuroscientist held that discussion, and he actually either helped companies create some of these technologies or in the process of researching it. And I have to say, it's like Black Mirror, like interesting technology.
Definitely sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So super, very, very interesting discussions where there'd be marketing. We even had almost a marketing therapy group where the head of marketing for Canva, Christine, she was leading that discussion. It was very, very, it was just obviously therapeutic, but also just to be able to hear what's going on within the industry and what we're having struggles with. All to say that whole experience is, they hone in into giving power back to its attendees. They created some other formats like Ignite Talks, where you have 15 slides max. You can talk about any of your passions, and you have 15 seconds per slide to discuss it. And you get to present it in front of everyone. And so the experience format is very lucrative. It's what you make of it. They had activities outside of a conference, just discussions. They had a cook-off where people got to actually cook their own dishes for everyone else, and they got to compete. And I got to participate that as well. And then other things like, creative activities, whether that be doing pottery, or et cetera. So all to say that this kind of exclusive event that touches on a lot of experience factors, it definitely defies what people think of a conference nowadays. So I have nothing but great things to say about it.
This is music to my ears right now. Only due to the fact that this is so relevant to the conversation I had this morning with. I will call out. I had a chance to talk with Hugh Forrest, who's the co-founder of South by Southwest, which if you guys know, they've amplified South by Southwest. Like, it is huge in Austin, obviously, but they've gone to the shores of Australia over in Sydney, and now they're going to deploy the next one in London in 2025.
Wow.
I touch on that because he asked me what I think the future of experiential is. Now, people can ask that. People can have panels and sessions on what experiential. Every agency and brand can come out with a trend report. However, you talk to people such as Kim, who went to an event that was so unconference-like. That to me is what the future of it is. Go to an event like this that is so, whether it's highly exclusive or invite only, that I think is just an avenue that brands or agencies will do. But then you could go the other route too. you know, Marcus, the Donald's thing at our Basel last year, I mean, you told me to come by, but it was so curated. And I hear about what Kim is talking about too. It was so curated, spontaneous, but there's this element of let this be natural for the attendees. Let them have pure raw conversation. And that's what Hugh today. I said, I think there's going to be more of those. And there are way more of these very highly exclusive, almost secret unconferences, if you will, around the globe. We just don't always hear about them. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know what I need to do to make sure I get in the room, but change my Rolodex a little bit. But no, that's amazing. And you're right. Like when we think of, and that's perfect for this show, is like we think about the evolution of engagement. We think about how that is evolving in moments where there is some exclusivity, but at the same time, there is these conversations that people can hear and take back, right? Like, and that's the whole thing, is being able to take that back and share it with an audience like today, or even just in your connect groups or in your close proximity. So I love hearing that. And my question is, when you think about that conference and that moment, what was kind of one of your biggest takeaways from that conversation overall, or just being there that whole week? What's a couple takeaways there that you can share?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I would say the biggest takeaway, at least like pertaining to experiential and experience, is that individuals, especially like across brands right now, like even in like our marketing discussion, like everyone is talking about, starting within a community. I think a lot of conversations about community and almost like fandom groups, and like even celebrities were even brought up, of like tapping into celebrities, influencers, etc. And I think something that necessarily wasn't being brought up, and maybe it's because my point of view, I was one of the few like truly focused on experiential people there, is how experiences are being tapped into or used as a way to tap into those kind of communities, right? I think a lot of brands are talking about how they really want to engage community, really want to engage with fans, but I don't think they have cracked the code on how to do that in an authentic way. And so I think my biggest takeaway from the conversation I was able to have is that experiential, although it is in big investment and it is growing so fast, I think there's still room. I think there's a lot of room where brands need to be educated on the untapped potential of experiential and be able to harness that power to, again, authentically engage with the communities and fans that they want to go after. I think, a lot of like I would say top brands right now, example for Airbnb, I know they just, released the Icons experiences. They are getting it where they're going on top of like experiences, everything, whether that be events and experiences, whether that be the customer experience on their app, every touch point of the customer journey, they understand. And so I think there's still a lot of room for our industry to kind of level up and show brands the power of experiences. So I would say that overall, that's like one of my biggest takeaways, besides the top brain technologies, which is, again, we still can't get over
that one's.
We're gonna have to. We'll be diving into that so some other time. I honestly, it's one of those things that I'm starting to get more intrigued by. Like, what else is there at these events? C2 Montreal. We don't have to jump into it yet or anything. Yeah, but I will. There was. All right. Yeah, we'll jump.
Go into it.
I want to hear it. I
know that people are commenting too, and I see Jeff. I see Jeff Fortman, our friend there, from Brand Innovators, who holds great events. Mentioned there's also another good one to follow, and that's the World Experience Summit, which I believe they're doing in New York City, like June 12th through the 15th or something like that. Which is a really great one if anyone can go to attend too. They do a lot of these like campfire sessions and stuff. It's really neat. But with C2,
Wait, Joe. Let's take this question. Let's take this question. We got two questions. So let's take these two questions and then transition to C2, because I want you to break C2 down so people will know what it is. So we got a question from Justin. He says, what are the KPIs you measure or look for to ensure an experiential activation experiences is successful? So I'll pass it to you all to start. And Kim, since you're the guest, we'd love to hear from you first. And then Joe.
Yes. Okay. I love this question because I think as an industry, we get this question probably every day, right? Like, how do we prove out what we're doing and experiences actually are successful? And I have to say, I think of experiential as like an integrated strategy, right? Like, I think an event experiences can tap into almost every other channel in the marketing mix, and is more of a, like, a experience strategy versus just one channel, right? Like, I think we rely heavily on social brand partnerships, influencers, even, like, I would say with our collaboration with sales team, making sure our relationships from these events experiences are being funneled into them. Those are the channels that we really tap into to ensure that it's a successful activation. And I would say, in my eyes, like, the most successful activations are the ones that can transcend that in real life person and time. Like, experiential is not just about that one event that happened from Friday to Sunday or whatever the heck it is. It is legitimately, how do you create a digital experience as well and be able to tap in that? So I honestly say the partnership between experiential and social is my number one partnership, in terms of we always tap into the content. We always make sure that every activation creates not just FOMO inducing content, really inclusive content that makes our audience feel like they're connected and they're engaged. Like, I even give an example of Pinterest. Like, and we'll probably dive into this later about Judy, but she has done an amazing job with her team, where they don't just post event recaps. They post actual content that people are like, oh yeah, that resonates, that brings value to me. It's either it educates me or I actually connect with it. And so a lot of those KPIs is tapping to social KPIs. So impressions, engagement, those typical statistics, and then going into relationships. Like, I definitely feel that, especially in the B2B side, that our events experiences, we try to track on, like, a CRM of, like, what are those relationships looking like, and how do we get those. And then obviously email collection, a lot of website traffic is a huge one as well. So a lot of that media side. But I would say overall, just a high level, is that we try to prove out our KPIs by tapping into other channels as well. And it's not just event attendance, not just about, like, how much swag or how much merch was given out, but truly tracking from events, and then also the integrated channels as well. And that's how we overall prove out our ROI currently. I know that's a huge question, and I definitely think technology will come soon, where we're able to track more of these relationships and more of these engagements in our events. But I'll just say that's currently what we look at.
I love it. Joe, what do you think?
I mean, it's funny. There's the other I know we're going to answer another question under there. But it actually was asking what Kim's agency, and I know, Kim, you're at Expedia, you're at a brand, so KPIs are measured in a little different, from a brand to an agency point of view. When I look at it from an agency point of view, I've always said that I wish there was a way to measure KPIs on emotion, which is insane because how to measure emotion. However, I've always thought that those specific emotions that I always tie to experiential, whether it's love, fear, hope, nostalgia, those tend to be ones that I'm like, I wish there was a way or a technology or an aspect that could identify what those emotions are being conveyed or being almost extracted from people and how they're being evoked. And then did that find it to be successful? If you go to an activation and there was something nostalgic about it, let's say the YouTube thing that was happening at Coachella, there was a whole 90s theme kind of aspect. Obviously, anybody who grew up in the 90s or who's influenced by it is going to have that nostalgia feeling and saying, of course that was successful. That hit me, It's hard to measure that. And I mean, so I'm not really answering the question, but I'm hoping eventually there is a way to measure based on emotions,
Yeah, I mean, both of you all make great points, and we got two more questions that have come in, but I agree with you, Kim, from a B2B standpoint, and even just on the brand side. And then Joe, we always talk about, like, these different components that are tied to experiential, and definitely like you hit it on the head of, there's a nostalgia moment. Well, it resonated with me, so that, of course, that was a successful thing. So and then, I mean, for me, like, I'm on more B2C and come from the agency side. And so there are things that I have to understand that the brand is trying to execute on, and those fold into my what I want to track from my team, as well as what how we position our consumer experience. So again, the question was kind of leaning back to like, what are those KPIs that make it successful? Again, it truly depends on the brand and what they're focused on. Goes back to the Excel sheet. I like to call it, like, goes back to that dollar. Like, what are they really trying to execute on there? That it be emotion to drive sales in the future, that it be just conversations or contacts, or from my standpoint, like driving people to go to a restaurant and purchase. So those things are kind of all tied to the KPIs. Getting a lot of go ahead.
It does tie something, and I have to say, I think Kim and I have had a lot of experiences together, whether it's going to a restaurant in New York City or talking about our travels and things like that. And it always kind of it comes down to the genesis of, what are you willing to spend your money on? I mean, from a B2C standpoint, clearly B2B has different KPIs and different things that you have to look at the ROI on. But when I look at B2C, I go, what am I willing to spend the money on? I mean, Kim and I are willing to go and spend money on an experience or an activation or event. I mean, me going to C2 was on my own, and I wanted to attend that and see those people and learn those things. So it's enough of that willingness and that investment on my part that I hope is being tied back to the social engagement, the KPIs that Kim, you were touching on, and everything you just said too, Marcus. So, you have to really get down to the brass tacks of it too.
Yeah. And I'll add something else. I know we're going to hop to the next question, is my experience before Expedia Group. And again, Expedia Group owns the 3 top travel brands, Hotels.com, Expedia, and Vrbo. Before I went over to Expedia, I was at Vista, and our team's purpose was to basically, we were a brand new team. It was the global brand activations team. We were in charge of partnerships, experiential, and influencers, social in one team. And we were tasked with shifting the brand perception. So in our case, our main goal was to create more brand awareness around Vista and VistaPrint as a whole. And so a lot of our partnerships and experiential activations tied to relations being built with our community. And that actually, a lot of the relationships we built from our events got funneled into our ambassador program that we created on our team. And then also, again, huge emphasis on social, especially since that's under our remit as well. So again, those KPIs for social was a huge one. So those were our 2 top KPIs, was relationships and funneling it into our ambassador program, and then social. It's really quick.
All right, we have another question from Dudley. Dudley says, and this is to you, Kim, directly, says, do you have a specialization at your agency? If so, what is it, and what attracted you to that specialization within Experiential? Love that question. This is geared towards career. So, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So So I specifically lead internal audiences right now at Expedia. And so really what attracted me to this audience is, if I think about my career in, 5-10 years, in my eyes, my biggest goal is to be able to create a consistent brand experience between all 3 audiences. And the 3 audiences are consumers, businesses, and employees. All 3 audiences are key to any organization, to any brand. And so that is what attracted me to this specific role currently. But overall, I mean, even throughout my career, like consumer and employees, just me understanding what nuance of each audience is, I got attracted to, just overall experiential in general, is to create connective moments and experiences to every audience, whoever they may be, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and understanding what makes them tick and work, and how do we elevate experiential because of that. And so all in general, like, I think that what attracted me to this is really in general that I would like to learn about every audience. And I believe wholeheartedly that experiential and experience needs to be thought out on every aspect of a business, a customer journey, and et cetera, just in general.
I love it.
I like that. That's good.
And then, Joe, Joe, I want to send that question to you too. I mean, what is kind of your specialization? What, a little bit of a light background. I know you have an extensive background, but wanted to just give people that insight as well.
Yeah. I mean, I came and grew up from the brand ambassador tour manager point of view. So, very, very boots on the ground, very B2C. Yeah. And I loved it. It made me realize like what an experience is. The whole week this past, I don't mean tying it back to C2 and not touching on it, but I have so much from what I just endured of it, where there was a moment where you had a breakout session within one of the excursions we did 2 days ago, and it was through XP Land, which is done by Erica at XP Land, and what they sponsored it was pretty magical, actually, and I can dive into it. But what I think is important is these breakout sessions went to the thing, instead of it being this grandiose moment, instead of it being some multi-sensory engagement, which is important to do, we just sat down at a table across from like a bunch of people and just talked. And it was like raw conversation where I thought to myself, I'm like, this was really powerful. You had all the other gimmicks, you had the activations, because we were at different studios around Montreal, and you would go and you would learn about like different projects they've been a part of, different gamification things that were going on. But my favorite part was sitting down there and just having a conversation. And that to me is huge. You know, if you can just sit down and have a conversation with someone, do you know how much you can learn, how much you can get insight, how much you're maybe able to bestow wisdom upon that person. And then hopefully that ties into what a brand will be able to activate on, what an agency can maybe get some different trends or some different aspects of what they want to implement on a client team. So I just think having a good sit down, raw conversation, you know, Kim, you touched on the racing and having a board at WPP of just like, here's like this just rawness of what it is, you know? So yeah, I think about that, but I'm happy to go into C2 if you want. I don't need to keep just.
No, you keep tossing it out there. It better be good, Joe. I ain't gonna lie to you now. It needs to be the best. Before we do that, we do have one more question. Again, this is episode 7 of Evolution of Engagement, and we have a special guest today. We have Kim Trieu, who is joining us. And so again, if there's questions that you want to ask her, please share those as well. Also, tap in. Let us know what city you're watching from. That is always interesting to me. As post-pandemic world, we're not going to go into the post-pandemic world today because me and Joe just go on a whole tangent about experiential in that space. But we definitely want to just hear what city you're representing so we can just continue to show love around the world. As well as one thing about this show, and it ties to Kim directly, is that experiential is just not about what you see at the event or in that moment. We like to show support to everyone that helps those moments come to life. Again, your brand ambassadors, your vendors, your 3D designers, those companies that are just boots on the ground that really put a lot of this together. So always showing love to everyone that helps coordinate to make an experience happen. That being said, we got one more question that I wanted to get to. And it is, I think we can keep this one a little bit shorter, as this is from Michelle. She says, how do you find ways to drive ROI for a brand via an experiential events? I find some of my clients, CPG, view events are too costly without a tie to sales. Or do we need to shift our mindset? So I think that's an interesting question. I know, the dollars versus ROI, that's always going to be a conversation. You're always going to hear that. But Kim, I want to hear what you think about that and get your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And 100%, this is always going to be a question for, I think a constant question for our industry and constant question for experiential. But I do have to say, I do think there is a shift in the mindset about the role of experiential, right? Like recently we just saw the chief events officer being a title, new title now, where events and experiences are having a seat at the table, the executive table. And so I think everyone is not everyone, I would say, it's slowly, but it's coming, understanding that the role of experiential is, yes, it can be a majority emotion, but it does have ROI outcomes. And although I think a lot of the times it is, again, long-term value versus the short-term value. And so people, you don't see it per se yet, but I do think that experiential, in the meantime, we can prove it out through, again, like emphasizing those channels and those KPIs through each channel, and understanding that we are feeling, and especially within social right now, like I think social is a huge, like everyone looks to social to convert the sales and really, puts a heavy lift on them, but Experiential is feeling that as well. And so I definitely think those channels can be proven. And in general, I think the mind shift about the role of Experiential is about the long-term experience, right? And Experiential is going to hit every consumer, every business, every employee, and the outcome will generate more business to the organization, to the brand, right? And so like even in the role of employees experiences, there's so much research already being done or has been done about the tie of how events and experiences is fueling talent attraction, talent retention, productivity. That is quite literally, if you convert it to dollar value, is a huge astronomical number for a business. And to lose on that productivity because a company doesn't invest into events and experiences to have employees be engaged and connected to the brand is a huge miss. And so I definitely think there needs to be a shift, and it's already happening. But I think, again, we continually have those KPIs, and especially with sales, I know is a huge question mark of like, how do we connect more with the sales team? But at the end of the day, like the technology that even Joe, we were talking about, just like tracking emotions, tracking relationships, I think that is something that is we need as an industry to really prove out for the future. I think right now, and I'm sure there's many coming through or many tools that are coming about, but I think that's going to be the pivot of, if we get this technology, we're going to be able to prove out even more so the direct ROI outcomes in the meantime.
100%.
I told you, Marcus, what I tell you, she knows her stuff, but she's able to see. Kim, you're able to tell us what's going on in this world.
I love it. And I totally agree with you. And the shift is already happening. It's already moving on the brand side. They're understanding. I think, again, you still, coming from an agency lens, we still have to prove it out, but be more strategic how you prove it out and have those intimate conversations and bring those clients along in the conversation of, okay, don't just look at one thing of experiential. Look at all the other touch points that are being magnified from this, not only just influencers, but social things that you may happen that are boots on the ground. So it's like looking at it from a bird's eye view and not looking at, oh, we just spent here, we did something, but then all these things are happening around it.
Yes. I have to add too, before we move on from this, is that even like with Airbnb releasing their icons, people are questioning, what is the business strategy? I mean, really, they're creating all these icons and it's like zero cost. And something that Brian Chesky, I remember I heard him saying, is that it's all about experience. He literally, meaning that's quite verbatim, by the way, but the end of it, the gist of it was, it's all about experience. Is that at what touch points can we integrate into our brand can seamlessly integrate into. And that's why he really wants to integrate with communities, with fandoms and celebrities, and be able to create even a bigger brand than Airbnb. I think at the end of the day, they're trying to create a lifestyle, right? They're trying to create experience at the end of the day for their overall brand. And it's more than just, at the end of the day, a booking platform or a travel platform. And so I'll just say, definitely agree with you. The shift is happening where experiential is more than just the direct ROI also.
Yep. You are right on that. And I agree. The icons move is not you see it, but again, there's so many fandoms tied to that. There's so many people that are like, oh, I want to do just the simple fact, I want to do that. And note that social is going to drive it even more. Like people are going to highlight like, oh, this does resonate with me because the fandom that I have for it is just going to keep going. And you've seen the commercials that they run. They've been taking a couple jabs at each other, the other platforms, but it is Airbnb is talking about experiences and making that booking experience a moment. Want to shout out, thanks, Gabriella. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you. Michelle representing NYC. Dudley representing.
For the sake of, I know this has been a very dynamic conversation, actually. And so I know we wanted to touch on a little bit of Cannes Lion for what it's coming up. I'm happy to give the quick overview of C2 just so people can understand that. I can do a very top level one. And, C2 being a creative and innovative event that happens in Montreal, Canada. I was gifted to go through a friend of mine, Johan, who happens to be the chief creative officer at C2. And I went, and I have to say, this was on my bucket list for many years to go because I've always heard that it is an experiential haven of creativity, of innovation, of conversation and community, which, I mean, many events will claim that they have, but C2 really provided this element that was, I never really endured something like that. So Tuesday was the first day. Their session, the layout of the entire space was almost kind of a maze, which made it felt really cool that in order to find a session or find a panel that you were interested in, you kind of had to search to go to it, which I thought was really fascinating and really cool. One of the other elements C2 is they hold these labs, quote unquote, like a lab that's going on that you that can either be in English or French, but I went to one that was called neurodiversity lasagna. So you had to learn how to you would learn about these different neurodiversities of ADHD, dyslexia, autism, any of these different things that we might not always understand, and how that there's such a huge impact of their lives through their professional world, through their personal lives. But we were given some insight into neurodiversity through making lasagna. So we would have fresh pasta, and you would cut out pieces that were symbolic toward that particular particular neurofunction. So if it was ADHD, it would be a circle, a piece of pasta, and the person who was curating the whole thing would show that someone who has ADHD, who is a circle pasta, will actually try to conform in the workplace to a bunch of square pastas who maybe don't suffer from ADHD. It's a fascinating approach from a hands-on, with lasagna, to then going and saying, okay, here is what's going on in the workplace, and how there's a lot of places that don't. They were giving credit to the US for being so progressive for people with physical disabilities, because we do, from having all the different things that we have to have in place for people with physical disabilities. Sometimes we don't do all the things for people with those neuro functions and diversities. Yep. And that goes for a lot of places across the globe. So that was a lab that was taking place at C2. Super interesting. There was plenty more. But the one that really touched on me for what happened at C2 was, again, XP Land, that's founded by Erica over there. They created the first ever X front. So they sponsored C2, and they had an entire separate excursion on day 2 that was all about promoting just that experiential community that Kim has helped amplify, and that I know that we all represent. Basically, we were invited a tour around Montreal to a couple different studios. One was called Rodeo FX. They're in charge of some of the most magnificent special effects of Stranger Things, Dune, games, like really powerful things. Like I was just baffled that their case studies real. And then on top of that, we then went over to Moment Factory, which is another studio that specializes in a lot of brand activations and just marketing and advertising. And it was there that we did those sessions where we sat down and we just had conversation. One of them being, how do you break the rules of experiential? What are those rules that you break? And that was really neat. And Erica and her whole XP Land team really provided and curated this whole experience throughout that entire day. Even so much as having an author come in and talk about how to be curious, and it was rich with insight, but also building connections. And if that is what C2 is is a representation of C2, that's my best thing I can say about it. Is there was just all of that good stuff going on. I would say that was my little recap of it.
All right, you lived up to the hype, Joe. And there was one thing that you touched on. It was kind of like I think it was focusing on like disabilities, but it's not really truly the people are different. I think that's the key thing there. And then making experiences that show that you're thinking about everybody, like that inclusivity and experiential. Like I know we've talked about that before, but like that is really key. And it's going beyond what ADA regulations, like whatever it may be from a physical standpoint. But like there are times when, changing the font on a screen or changing the font in copy, like that all ties back to kind of like being inclusive through the work. And it was great for you to kind of go through more of an experience style of it. And wait, did you have to use real lasagna, or was that just?
No, it was real. They were making fresh pasta, and then it was like you cut out the shapes. I think that's what made it. And I even misspoke. It's not a disability. I misspoke,
Yeah.
and I own up to that. But that's exactly the point of the exercise, was so it would stretch those things about, okay, well, wait, this is as much as I know, but now I'm finding out more information and there's more insight. And I almost walked away from there hard to digest. That wasn't meant to be pun like intended with lasagna or anything, but like digest everything that was going on. And I'm like, this is interesting. And I wish more people, that's the only thing, is it's educational. And I don't think that's enough of that going on in the workplace to educate people on all those different things, So
100%. Yeah. 100%. I have to say, just to build that too, and not necessarily talking about neurodivergency, but even like I think about building inclusive moments where people feel connected and really truly included, and not necessarily looking out from the outside in. Just to reemphasize that point, I know a lot of people just talk about like, yeah, let's create FOMO, but like if we back to the motion piece, Joe, like FOMO really reduces down to anxiety. It feels like we have anxiety because we're not in that moment in time in person. And so is that really truly the emotion that you want to create for your audience, especially for Gen Zers? I have to throw that in. I am a fellow Gen Zer, and I just have to say, like, the brands that get it, especially like Pinterest, they understand that FOMO is not the way to reach to us. FOMO is we don't even try to say FOMO anymore. Honestly, we want to feel connected. We want to feel like you guys understand us. And if we're going to look from the outside in, at least make it educational and valuable and connective and then inclusive at the end of it. I'll leave that.
I mean, Kim, you just dropped a bar. I'm not going to lie to you. That's a bar for real.
I love
that. That is the evolution of engagement. I love that. I mean, we just touched on things, how the evolution of engaging with consumers, engaging with this target audience of Gen Z, millennials, Gen Alpha, and then also the inclusivity of being open to understanding the growth of, being open to understanding what you may not know about people that you may not physically see. And like Joe, again, like you sharing that is huge, and that's huge for this audience to hear that and how they can approach it. So we are winding down here, and again, we had our one of our first, which is having Kim on as a guest. Thank you, Kim, for being here. But before we go, we have to talk about something that is pretty huge in our industry. This is kind of the moment that a lot of people work up for. Not only this one, but there's other big experiences that a lot of people in our industry, in the advertising industry, marketing industry, work towards. And that is Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, hosted in Cannes, France. And so that is in June next month. Actually, Joe and I went last year, and Joe, is that our first time hanging out? I think it.
Yeah, like we've obviously talked and hung out in person, but it's like our meeting in person. And I'm gonna try to go out there again this year, Marcus. I know you are, right? You're going.
I'm supposed to be still some, waiting on some final things there, but
Kim, you want to go? Are you going out there?
I really wish I could make it out there. I unfortunately won't be, but I miss you guys. If you guys are both.
So, but Cannes Lions again is a place where a lot of brands show up. Not only do they develop these experiences on the beaches, but as well as they show off their work. You're looking to really receive that award that solidifies some work that you've done over the previous year, as well as one thing that I love about going to Cannes Lions, and especially there's kind of a couple ways you can experience it, but if you have the full pass, is being able to go hear from jurors and people that are on the jury selection committee and how they pick work, and being able to take that back to my team and say, all right, this was our campaign. Here's the key things we need to be like focusing on. And of course, I want to, sip rosé on the yachts and all of that. But really, it's understanding how we can execute better in work to get to that big level and be on that stage, looking amongst the crowd. So, of course, some brands that we expect to be there. Of course, Pinterest. I've already signed up for their stuff. And you said something that was interesting, that again about the FOMO part, but like you've seen Pinterest. I've seen Pinterest over the last 2-3 years, and not only there, but in just other places. And it doesn't feel FOMO inducing. It feels like I'm continuously learning. I want to be a part of this. I like now they did have a part which was kind of FOMO inducing, which is they was doing tattoos. I do want a tattoo in France. Like that would be cool. But I think I'm excited to see what they bring to the market there, and bring to France, and see how they continue to develop. I think they understand what the audience wants in France and then just executes on that. So I'm excited to see them, as well as Sport Beach. They last year was their first year, and they introduced, of course, pickleball, and it was part of like the on the ground experience. But of course, they had like talks and other things throughout the time there. So Sport Beach, they're going to have like Draymond Green, Flajay Johnson, Travis Kelce will be there, Shannon Sharp. So a lot of the big sport moguls will be showing up at Sport Beach this year. So that'll be cool. And then there was 2 more. Hopefully TikTok is doing their takeover again in the hotel. I thought that was pretty cool. Joe and I went, as well as Inkwell Beach, which is the only DE&I beach at Cannes. And so they will be, again, they got some great stuff coming up this year. So I'm super excited about that as well. So Cannes Lions.
I want to definitely shout out to Jeff Foreman and his whole team at Brand Individual.
Jeff.
They show up there as well, and
you know what?
It's a great.
I did get an email from Brand Innovators yesterday. So Jeff, I apologize. Now, if I call you while I'm there, don't be ignoring my number, Jeff. I know you're watching. All right. But no, Jeff is amazing, and shout out to Brand Innovators. They always have some great stuff going on. So I definitely will be attending their events as well. So we have a few minutes left, and let me see. Who's this come from? Where is it? Shout out to shout out to them. McDonald's Grandma McFlurry. Of course, definitely always want to touch more cities, but shout out to Grandma McFlurry.
I have a quick question to close out it, I guess, for him.
Question of the day?
Yeah, well, yeah, question of the day, sure. Why not? Yeah. Do you find that those events that are unconference, like those ones that are of a WPP stream or similar, do you find that those are fulfilling that feel or that drive that like the Gen Zers are looking for? I can rephrase it too, because that conversation came up recently about the FOMO thing, and people keep having all these very busy events. There's just so much always going on, and so it creates that FOMO. However, I've found that a lot of people, and myself included, are really loving when you can actually attend the thing and go and actually like experience the whole event or the whole whatever it is that they're doing. Do you find that that's filling up your cup? Do you think those are more impactful for you particularly, or even speaking for your entire generation?
Yes. I mean, I definitely have to say, like, I think Stream by WPP fulfills a different purpose than to reach our generation. And I mean, exactly on that front. If this was an event that, wasn't a industry event and was more like a B2C or B2B, it wouldn't land well in my eyes in our generation. It is, again, very, like, again, creating that FOMO experience, not really truly making others feel connected to it. But for this purpose of this stream, I do believe, and I think even the article that came out about exclusive conferences, it serves a moment for executives, like CEOs, CMOs, to gather. And I don't think there is enough of that, because at the end of the day, they're in their tunnel, can be in their tunnel vision as well. And so for these safe spaces to actually be actually work for these executives to get, be more innovative, learn in a safe environment, I do think purposeful exclusion is okay. Like, I think exclusion can lead to more inclusion, right? And what I mean by that is if everyone was invited to the table, it dilutes conversations, right? It doesn't, not every single person can feel included in a conversation if they don't have a purpose to be there. And so when you intentionally exclude for that reason, where if someone can, be part of the conversation and feel like they can bring some value to it, then that creates an environment where everyone feels like they have gotten more value out of it. So I definitely say intentional exclusivity is okay for different purposes. So for WP Stream, I think it works. For our generation and for anything are trying to target us, definitely not. But
no, that's amazing. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, they're all individualized experience. I think you said it earlier. I mean, everyone is different. Every person is different. We're human, and so your experience at age 25 is going to be vastly different than your experience at that same event if you were 35 or 45 or 55. Time is a different version of yourself, and you might have different aspirations or fears or ambitions, all these things. And you also will have different minds too. And I think it's just important to kind of realize that at each stage of that life, for any person, you'll have different things that you can input, and then things you'll get on an output. And not everyone can do that all at the same time. So that was pretty fascinating. But yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, because I don't know if you have anything else or if we wanted to kind of wrap it up, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. This has been amazing, Kim. Thank you for carving out the time for an episode here on the evolution of engagement and here on LinkedIn Live. And the audience was super engaged. They really enjoyed it as well. You've seen the comments come across. So we appreciate you for being here. If we can close it out with anything, would love to just share for you to share where people can follow you or if anything you have going on. I know with the collective, if there's any open events that people can attend and how they can even join there. So we'd love for you to share that.
Of course. Well, again, thank you, Marcus and Joe, for having me be a part of this amazing initiative you guys have started. It's so exciting to see you guys to talk more about this evolution, which we just need more conversation and more discussion. So appreciate you both for that. And I will have to say, connect with me on LinkedIn. I am a huge advocate on that. And so love to connect and chat it up. So feel free to reach out. And then in terms of the Experiential Collective, please feel free to follow the page on LinkedIn as well. We also have a Google form into our LinkedIn bio, which is where you can basically submit an application to be part of the collective and community. More information about more events to come up soon. We actually, from South by, we hosted a meetup there where we were able to meet in person. We are planning to create more meetups in local areas. So if you're in New York City, I think that's what is going to be the soonest to come, hopefully. So if you are in New York City, we'll definitely post something about it and hopefully get to attend and just to see what the community is about. But I'll just say, please feel free to connect to learn more with the community and submit the form as well. So appreciate you both.
Love it.
Amazing.
Love it.
Amazing. I encourage a lot of people to apply, a lot of people to join. And Kim, you keep doing your thing, and appreciate you for joining us on this one, and Marcus for putting this all together.
Yeah, 100%. We appreciate it so much. Well, I hope everyone has a great and amazing weekend and get some rest as well. And again, stay tuned for the evolution of engagement. Please share this episode. We're getting up. We love when people are sharing it because the audience grows. So please share it, reshare it with your audience and friends as well. All right.
Awesome.
Well, if nothing else, we're signing off.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye, everyone.